Hello, welcome. Thank you very much for joining. As more people are starting to log in now, I can see the numbers going up. I'll do a quick overview of what the plan is for today. So we're aiming for 30 minutes or so of conversation on marketing approaches during the current crisis. And we're hoping for a Q&A session at the end. We'll take about 3 or 4 questions or so, depending on the time, as we're aiming for a maximum of 45 minutes. Brilliant, more people coming in. Just as a quick disclaimer, this is very much an informal conversation. It's not a one-size-fits-all, nor do we sort of claim to have all the answers. We're amongst friends here, so just kick back, relax, get a cup of tea, if you have one around, or something stronger if you're working from home, schedule allows. And most importantly, help me shape the conversation by making use of the chat box on the right of your screen. So if you've got any questions or anything like that, maybe give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the conversation. In fact, let's just get everybody warmed up. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear us all right and see us all right. You can do it, you can do it. Yes, that's it. Brilliant, amazing, thank you. That's it. If any of you need to sort of step out early, the session is recorded and it will be made available on the Prolific North YouTube channel and on our newsletter tomorrow, so you're not missing out. Brilliant. Okay, more people joining us. Thank you, Martin. Brilliant. So my name is Alexandra. I head operations at Prolific North. And it's my pleasure to be chatting today to a really exciting panel. Dan Kelsall is Creative Director at Offended Marketing. If any of you follow him on LinkedIn at all, he's quite entertaining and the advocate of getting risky with your content. Melissa Flowerdew-Clark, Marketing Director at Dept, an international digital agency present in 13 countries. That we can't travel to right now. She'll bring in her rich marketing strategy expertise, so looking forward to that. And Paul Miller, MD at Miller & Smith, joining us all the way from France. He's co-author of the Bland book and founder of London's biggest creative event series. So thanks so much for joining. If we can do a quick sound check just to see if we all can hear you. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Brilliant, amazing. Well, let's dive straight in, shall we? So, framing a challenge that might sound popular to a lot of us right now. As a business, you've got your budget, paused most of your marketing activities, perhaps. You're operating with a reduced team. Where do you go from here? And what should your approach be from a marketing perspective? Maybe Melissa can start.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So firstly, I think it's important to recognise that we've got a range of businesses on the webinar today from across different sectors, and each of you will have unique challenges. So as Alexandra said, there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. I think it's important to recognise the changes that you've made. Were they a panic pause to mitigate short-term risk, or are they a long-term cull? Your staff furloughed, or are they made redundant? Is the budget on pause, or is it completely cancelled? Then as you go forward, I think you have to be really pragmatic when you look at your marketing approach. Focus on the short term, focus on 3 months max, because things change really quickly, as we all know, and prepare to be super agile with it. Take an honest look at what you can afford. And to be honest, £0 probably isn't going to cut it. But also look at what skills you've retained as well, because there's no point in chucking all your money into PPC if you don't have the expertise to optimize it and really drive ROI. Look at your tech stack. So if you've invested in a marketing platform, are you getting the most value from it? If not, why not? Is it because of training? Is it because of integration? Is it because of ownership of the platform? But see how you can make that work harder for you before you switch it off. And then also think about any new customers you've reached over the past few weeks. They might have a new buying journey. And also if you've lost any clients as well, you're going to want to win them back, and both will take 2 slightly different approaches.
Yeah, I mean, I would go on, Dan. You go on. We spoke over each other.
Yeah.
You go for it.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, mate. I'd just say that I think one of the things that we're finding with a lot of our clients and other agencies is no one's really taking the time to kind of take stock of where they're at. And it's a massively important thing to do at the start of any new market activity. And this is new marketing activity. So many things will have changed. People aren't actually thinking about where they're actually at as a business. Everyone's kind of still in holding your breath mode. And the problem is, like, we haven't got time to wait. You shouldn't be sat there holding your breath and waiting to see what will happen. The world's already changing. So actually, we should be taking stock of where we're at, looking at where our audience is as well, because our audiences change. Like, you almost have to go back to the beginning. The beginning of any marketing activity starts with defining that audience. Even if you've got the same customers, even if your customers are still spending, even if your customers are still, pretty much running business as usual, things will have changed. Buying habits have changed. The way they make decisions have changed. There are going to be characteristics and personality traits of everyone now that we haven't seen before. So going back and actually redefining that audience is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I would develop on both of those. I would say you need to stop. I think everyone right now needs to just stop. They need to stop and they need to think, need to breathe. Like Dan says, everyone's just in hold breath mode. The problem that people are having, I think, right now is they don't really know which way to turn. The old rules don't necessarily apply. Like, everything is different and nothing is different in that respect. So the principles, the principles of marketing that have lasted for the last 100 years still apply. The 4 Ps still apply. So in that respect, nothing has changed. But then on the flip side of that, everything is potentially changed. And yeah, take the time. You never, ever get the time to stop and think. When was the last time you had a month where you didn't have a great deal of meetings to have to attend and well, bullshit meetings to attend? I really would stress the real opportunity that people have right now to stop and to think. You have an opportunity to think, and you can outthink the competition. It can be by being quick. It can be by being agile. It can be by pivoting from one thing to another, changing a business model. It can be that, but it can also just be raw creative. It can be something that you just completely outthink the competition. One of the metaphors that I really like about marketing is that marketing is a knife fight in a phone box, and that's essentially what it is. You have a market share, you've got to defend it, and you've got to take it off somebody else. And if you don't, they're going to take it off you. Mm-hmm. And you can bet your bottom dollar that your competition is taking the time to stop and to think right now. So if you're not, they're going to eat your lunch.
Okay, so let's say you've taken some time to stop, pause things, sort of reflect on your situation, where you are, where you want to be. Where do you take it from there in terms of, once you've set your objectives, what you want to do, where do you take it from there in terms of looking at the different digital channels that you can use? What are the most effective ones to be using right now?
Yeah, do you want to go, Mel? Go on.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I think I saw a stat recently where marketing budgets have been slashed and declined the fastest rate since the 2008 financial crisis, which I think really demonstrates how everyone has just literally gone into panic and hold your breath mode. But I think it's worth remembering that overall interest hasn't waned. So when we come out the other side of this, people are still going to want a new car, home insurance, plumbing supplies, or a lawyer. The interest is still there. So if you're not communicating with those customers now, you will lose them to the competition and you'll be starting on the back foot. So what you should really be focusing on, even if you can't operate or you're not selling right now, is that top of funnel and those channels, to make sure that you're still front of mind, so that when the purse strings are opened again and transactions can happen, you already have that boost and you don't lose your market share. So that would be my recommendation. Focus on top of funnel. And if you have zero budget right now, really focus on your organic presence, focus on your socials, focus on your content, focus on your SEO.
Yeah, I mean, I would develop that a little bit further and say that the Brand Z research that came out the start of this year showed that the brands that invested in their brand in 2008-09, just after the financial crash, or the brands that invested in their brands during the financial crash grew 9 times quicker in the 10 years after that. So we've already done this once before. You know what I mean? Like there was a bit of a dry run in 08-09. You have the roadmap is there. You're a fucking idiot if you're not taking note of that and investing in your brand right now. Now you would expect me to say that, you know, I create advertising, but you know the research backs it up. And the brand, if you don't, your competition will, and they'll have your breakfast. Really, they will. They'll have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner. It's your mug if you're turning the taps off now. I think you should be investing top of funnel. The most effective way that you can build a brand are the big, in my mind, the big traditional media channels. So that's TV, outdoor, press, radio. They're all cheap as chips at the moment compared to what they used to be. You know, crikey, we're putting ads out at the moment for clients. And they're getting ridiculous prices on their outdoor TV, radio, especially ridiculous prices, because the brands that have been historically advertised on those have turned the taps off, and the ones that aren't are growing their brand without with a reduced level of competition. You have to be investing in that right now. And if you can't, then you need to get creative in how you do that.
And I'll just add to that as well. So it's really, really difficult at the minute to define specific channels because there's so many different people on here with so many different industries and sectors that we work with or work within. The one thing that I'd say is concentrate on the things that have always worked, right? So when you look back at like the Spanish flu, right? The one thing that people needed and one of the industries that flourished was entertainment, right? So printing presses, theatres, brothels, right? All these things flew, right? Because people get bored, right? If we're in lockdown for another 6 months, which it might not be, you don't know. You know, people are going to get really stir crazy. People want to be entertained, and you've got a real opportunity here, either as an agency or in-house as a brand, right, to entertain people and keep people from going stir crazy, right? I'm not saying you have to go around and give your clients hand jobs. I'm just saying that what you need to do is do something to keep them there, because you've got like the likes of Netflix, right? Yeah, they've got loads of material. Yeah, their user base is shot through the roof. It's a fantastic period for them. But the fact of the matter is, they're going to really struggle to create new, interesting material as time goes on, because the nature is it's really hard to do a film shoot when we're all locked indoors and social distancing. And it's the same with every other channel. But brands have got an opportunity here to give people value, to keep people entertained in the period, and to grow an audience. And if you're able to do that, no matter what the channel, when the dust all
Question
settles,
from Mike saying advertise in outdoor.
Chances are you'll survive.
If you're entertainment will be outdoor. I think what Paul means is sort of planning for the future, isn't it? So sort of slotting things in, taking advantage of the fact that the price point is lower.
I think just to jump on that, because I saw that comment, and there was an outdoor ad that went viral because the creative was so awesome, and it was for like a vegetable chips, a brand called Emily, I think, and the poster just said, "This is our first outdoor campaign, and it's been seen by a runner and a single pigeon." And the creative was so awesome that all of a sudden it's been shared across social media, and all us advertising folks are going, "Oh, this is amazing." So actually, if you can get that type of brand awareness as cheap as Paul's saying, and still get some viral and digital presence, then absolutely invest in it.
So I've just had literally the reason why I was late into this webinar, I was on the phone to one of my media agencies, and he was just saying that one of our clients has booked the Piccadilly Circus board. Like, fuck, like that is so cheap right now, and it's the most famous billboard in the country. So yeah, you can advertise outdoor if you want, but
Interesting.
you know,
And
if you
just
run a
linking
regular
this,
ad, it's obviously not
sort
going to
of
get seen,
idea
but
of price
it needs
points
other material,
dropping.
it needs other
What are we
campaign
thinking
work around
about
it.
other
But yeah,
channels such
why
as
not?
PPC and social media advertisement, so sort of demand-led channels at this time? What's your opinion on that?
Go on, Melissa. Do you want to?
Okay. I can jump in. I think yes, there are some paid channels where you are going to see a drop in cost in PPC, for example, but you need to not necessarily see that as the answer, because even if you are getting them cheaper and you're driving loads of traffic, it's not necessarily the type of traffic that's going to convert. So that's one caveat that I would say around paid channels is that you might be able to get them cheaper, but actually, is it the right type of traffic that you need right now?
Cost per click is going to go down. We know that because no one's using it, right? Everyone's cutting back spend. It's going to go down, but the cost, the cost per acquisition is going to go up because people. All that means is uncertainty. That's all it is. It just means that people aren't ready to buy it. It doesn't mean you can't use that traffic. It's like Melissa says. It doesn't mean you can't utilize it. It doesn't mean you should completely pull back from the game, because if you disappear, you're like that kid in high school who disappears for ages, right? And he's dead popular, and then he fucks off. And he comes back he's had some weird disease, or he's moved to France for a bit, and he comes back and he's hit puberty, and now he's got he's got pimples and a weird mustache like this, and everyone's like, "Who the fuck is that?" And now he's got to work his way back up the social ladder, right? If you disappear, no, you're out the game, so you don't understand what's going on, you don't understand the changes, you're not aware of the changes in the market, and number two, everyone's fucking forgotten about you. So you're going to have to build that brand again. All that hard work you've done has just been unravelled in a matter of months. And somebody else, like Melissa said before, has already taken that space. You've got to stay in the game a little bit. Yeah, pull back spend, definitely. Yeah, adjust your budgets. Yeah, the 6 months, according to an article recently, 6 months.
Okay, so it's just sort of staying in people's minds. But here's a question for you, and a lot of people do ask about the differences between B2B and B2C, and I know what you'll say, it's dealing with people in both cases. But what about if you have perhaps a brand that's quite bland, really, or quite corporate, or how do you sort of navigate that in terms of finding a purpose of engaging people at this time?
Yeah, I think B2B is like a really broad term, and there's loads of subsectors within there, and some haven't been that affected and others have been massively impacted. So for example, B2B manufacturers who rely on resellers and distributors, who now that's closed, we're working with our clients to think how we can spin up virtual experiences, for example, of their products and solutions, how they can help their distributors to stay ahead of the game. Some have spun up direct to consumer, some have spun up new brands, some have started selling on Amazon. But what we would say is that if you can't operate now, then you should become a knowledge hub. You should become the experts in your field to build that brand awareness and to build that connection. Because if you can't sell, you should be educating.
Yeah, so I think that's answered one of the questions at the moment is how can you what's the best way to communicate the value of marketing without sounding too pushy or Celie? You can educate, or I take it one step further, I'd just be funny. Like just entertain people. You don't have to push a sales message at that point. I mean, the whole point of advertising is to get noticed. That's its whole job. And you can do that by entertaining people. You can do it with shocking them. There's a number of things you can do, but I would say that you don't necessarily have to be selling right now. And I would argue that in a lot of cases, you probably shouldn't be. I mean, I think it depends on the industry and it depends on your brand and what it is that you do. But you've got to remain top of mind, and you can do that effectively, and you don't have to spend a fortune. But you've got to outthink the competition.
Yeah, and also like, I mean, there's just on 2 questions there. There's one, the same one is just why I'd say back to that is why are you being pushy in sales anyway? Even before this, you shouldn't be doing that. There are very few industries where I've seen that work. If your marketing is pushy in sales, it's probably shit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not going to persuade, is it?
Yeah, is it? And so it's just adapting to a way that works anyway. This will work past coronavirus. This will you should be adapting your marketing not to be pushy in sales, because people don't want to be sold to. It's the old saying, people want to buy but they don't want to be sold to, right? But the other thing with Jennifer is funny in a corporate B2B, right, it's very difficult to get past senior management. It is now. But it takes people to change it, I think the world's changing. I think we're on the cusp of a wave where different people are moving into senior management roles, even in corporate environments. I've got mates who I went to school with who used to smoke weed around the back of the sports hall. They're like senior managers in banks now and stuff, right? And the world is changing, and people are recognizing that actually that veil of professionalism isn't the same as it once was, right? Professionalism used to be old white blokes in a 3-piece suit shaking hands and patting each other on the bum and making misogynistic jokes, right? Nowadays, professionalism is, it doesn't fucking matter. You can have tattoos and a weird mustache and do a good job. Professionalism is about doing a good job, right? So the B2B world is changing. I know you might struggle to get it past senior management now, but those people are going to move out of those positions very soon. And we will see a new wave of people in those positions who do know how to have a laugh.
Yeah, I would take it one step further than that. And I'd say just bypass the senior management, just go straight to the top.
Yeah.
Show them a decent ad. If you show a CEO a decent ad and you say this will improve our brand, this will sell more widgets, whatever it is that the aim is, they'll buy it because they'll see it because they're a CEO because they're good. Fuck the senior management, just bypass them.
That's amazing, and just the idea that things are changing. We'll get to
sort of opportunities. Like what are you going to do? You're going to sit there on your ass and go, well, senior management said we couldn't get it up.
I'm just sort of trying to paint a picture here. If you are dealing with a client that's sort of quite stiff, or you are in an organization that's sort of quite stiff, are there any sort of tips to try to lobby for that or get senior management on board to be a bit more risky?
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that is always, can they afford not to do this? And if they think they can afford not to do it, fine, let them. But if they go, oh, well, we're worried about this competitor that's the new incumbent in a, let's just say you're a big legacy company inside a big old fashioned industry. And you've got an incumbent that's like nipping away at your heels, and they go, well, actually not bothered about them. You go, fine, fuck it. You're not interested in me. That's fine. And I'll leave you alone. However, if someone says, well, I'm not really up for buying it, but I'm worried about this person, you go, well, actually, then you do need to buy what I'm telling you, because you are worried by this new disruptive company that's got better technology, is built from the ground up. It's a startup. It's got fucking hundreds of millions of pounds raised in capital, whatever it is, and they'll fucking have you. So you have to listen to people like me.
Yeah,
all three, not just me.
Yeah, it's just like, it's all on these kind of people. They base their decisions on figures. They don't actually care that much about what's done, right? The amount of mindsets we've changed of old blokes. I know that sounds really ageist, but it's true. By just doing things without asking their permission. And the case of ask permission, don't ask permission, ask forgiveness, right? If you need to. But that's always been my attitude. And the amount of stuff that we've done that's done well, once you present the figures to them and say that's how well it did, that's what it's done for you, that's what it brought in, that was the return, there's no argument. They don't.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely key. If you can demonstrate that something worked, then of course you're going to get buy-in to do it again, and you can act and then ask forgiveness later. But I think you don't have to go extreme with this. You can do it as softer approach that suits your business and suits your sector. You don't have to quite go too mad with the humor of it if it's not a good fit, and you can kind of baby step it. But I think it's also more around looking at your tone of voice and who you are as a business and how you want to present your why as a brand as opposed to your what. And, you know, and you can really look into that as a strategy to figure it out and who you are as a business. So it doesn't have to be
very much.
a one-off
Gabrielle,
hit and
that
hope.
answers
You can
your
actually
previous
put some
question
thinking
around
strategy
sort of the
behind
best way to
it and
communicate
present
the
that
value
to your
of
senior
marketing
managers who
right
want
now.
to know numbers and KPIs, and you need a valid
Moving on
reason
to
do
the next
everything.
question,
So you can
if
do
there
it
was
and you
one
can change
opportunity for
mindsets.
marketeers
And if you can't,
that you would
these two
sort of
guys
like
in the
to
room
highlight
elsewhere.
at this time, what would that be?
Okay, well, one of my colleagues, Diana, said something that really resonated with me quite recently. And this crisis has really given us a unique opportunity to be transformative in our businesses. So it's probably the only opportunity that we've ever had to try and get fast traction for an idea that might seem crazy or might have been really low down on the wish list. Because we're noticing with our clients that there's actually a lot less red tape at the moment. And everybody has okay, let's try it and see if it works attitude. So I think at the very worst, you'll create absolutely no change, but at the very best, you could revolutionize the way your business operates.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience with my clients, the people that have often been the ones with the most red tape have been furloughed recently. So they're not there to put the red tape in there. So you don't have to worry about it. Just go straight, just keep going, steam ahead. It doesn't, I agree with what Mel's saying. There is no time like the present to rip up the existing rule book and do things differently with it, convince a client to do something differently. If you're agency side, if you're brand side, rip up how you've been doing it and start again. You've got the time. I've just said you've got the time. You've got a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months to completely rethink your strategy.
100%, yeah.
When do you ever get that?
Exactly, and it's realizing as well that, like, you know, there's a third of the UK on furlough or unemployed, right? So if you're in a job now and you're still working, and especially marketing, right? Loads of all over LinkedIn and Twitter, loads of creatives, loads of marketers are fucked. We're all in a very privileged position, right? And that privileged position gives us chance now to try new things. And that, I think we've actually got a responsibility to try and adapt and change and do some crazy shit, because there are other people who would love to be in the position that we're in. It's our choice now as marketers as to how we do and how we adapt to this environment and what we do with it. And we've got a chance now to change shit in our own organizations. You know, even the way that agencies run, we've got a chance to change the way that marketing operates, right? Because that's what things like this in history always create, right? It always creates some sort of fucking revolution, right? You've got, whether it's the world wars, whether it's pandemics, whether it's fucking global economic crashes, right? They always create opportunities on the back of them, because it's the people who kind of, you know, get a handle on it and adapt quick enough that are the ones that actually end up thriving. So I think if you're still on a job now, if you're still working, you've still got an opportunity, take it with both hands.
Yeah, and the one thing I would develop on that would be traditionally, over the last, probably about the last 10 years, the average tenure of a CMO, so the chief marketing officer or VP of marketing, brand side, has been 18 months. That's it, 18 months. That's normally how long they get. And the value of the marketing department has been eroded, you know, over the last 10 years, and it's been sort of pushed around, and it's been the coloring in department. And marketing hasn't been good as an industry at defending itself and defending its value. But my clients now, the ones that they're no longer having crisis meetings, thank God. But like, you know, like when they're actually like, you know, they've decided that the ship isn't going to sink, and they're now thinking about what they're going to do when they get out of this. The person that is leading those discussions is the CMO. It's the VP of marketing. That I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the value of marketing to be reestablished brand side. And it's not the fucking chief product officer that's leading these conversations right now. It's not the chief tech officer. You know, it's not the CFO. It's the CMO. It's the person that has to create something out of nothing. That is the person that's leading these conversations right now on brand side, and that is our client. That is, as an agency, that is our person that we need to impress. And that's, as an agency, That's what they should be doing. They should be making that job as easy as possible. They should be coming up with fucking loads of ideas, brilliant strategy, brilliant creative, wonderful media to grow that brand out of this troubled water.
Yeah, and I'd echo that. I mean, it was the back end of last year, and it was Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, McDonald's. They all scrapped the CMO role and replaced it with these made-up new titles, Chief People Officer, and you know, all this nonsense. And I always think that, as Paul says, and marketing hasn't defended itself, and you've got a bit of a bad rep. But for me, what a marketing leader should be is the glue and the bridge across all elements of the business. So you're on the front line, you're understanding your customers, and you're feeding that intel back into operations, IT, and product development. And then you have to be aware of your business's financial targets, because we know the CEO is going to be led by the numbers. And it's only when you have that really holistic view of the entire company can you really deliver a successful strategy for growth. So yeah, I think marketing, this could be a turning point for us at last.
Yeah. I mean, just to something to answer Bethan's point, she says in the chat, I'm an in-house senior marketer and I'm being inundated by external agencies who don't understand my role and my pressures. I totally hear what you're saying there. A lot of agencies don't understand and don't have empathy for marketers in-house, even though they're their client, and they concentrate all of their fire on the public. And not saying that they shouldn't, but there should be an empathy for the internal politics and the jostling for position and just the fucking shit that people have to put up with in corporate life in order to get stuff out the door. And I completely empathize with that.
Thank you, Paul.
What I would say is an agency should be making your job easier so that you can navigate. That's
in 3-4
the sign of a good
weeks'
agency.
time,
I'm not saying just
lockdown is lifted,
mine, but like Mel's and Dan's as well.
go back to
good
some
agencies
shape of
should
normal.
be giving you the ammo
How do we
be able to
approach this turning
navigate
point from a marketing perspective?
the difficult questions and
do
the
we
politics
just
and all of the
off
kind
our
of crap that goes on in
our pre-corona strategies
big
and
brand
sort of
corporate
expect
life?
them to work? Or is it really a case of sort of using this downtime wisely and ensure that you come up with new strategies?
Yeah, I think for me, what I would do is prioritize, really. And so, for example, if you have lost customers or clients over the past 6 weeks or so, I would probably put that top of the list in trying to win them back. So look at your data, which hopefully you have in a lovely CRM and some snazzy dashboards, and understand what that data means. Understand that it reflects people's challenges and emotions and needs, and you need to use that data to create a human first connection with your lost clients. You need to show them that you understand and that you can help solve their problems, and reach out to them with relevant, personalized messaging that's not full of buzzwords and isn't the same old stuff that's filling our inboxes right now. Because I think if you haven't been able to do field sales, account-based marketing is your new field sales, and you need to create that human connection again. And also, I think that right now isn't the time for big vanity projects. I think you need to be really clear on an outcome or a target or a KPI so that you've got something to measure against, so you know if what you're doing is working or not. And you need to quickly be able to move and be agile if it isn't. And I always think that if you can't articulate the point of doing something, then there's no point in doing it.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't articulate it to the people in your team or other departments within your business, then how the hell are you going to articulate it to the public that don't give a shit about what you're saying and your product? It's never. I completely agree. What I would also say is, it's not a one size fits all, but probably. Anybody that as a brand comes out, like when sort of restrictions are lifted and they go, right, bam, let's press the big green button and start banging the drum, like day one of sort of normal, in inverted commas, probably going to make a false move. This is going to be something that's going to be sort of a steady sort of unratcheting of the system. I think if you try and bombard people now, or when sort of restrictions are lifted, I think you're going to potentially waste a lot of money and probably not do a particularly good job. I think you've got to be mindful of the public mood. That doesn't mean not selling. That doesn't mean not advertising. What that means is just be mindful of how people feel. How many cold calls are you getting now? I'm still getting cold calls of fucking people trying to sell me phone deals or internet deals for the studio, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like this, how many people are saying yes to this kind of cold calling stuff? I can't imagine anybody is. Be mindful of the public mood. Otherwise, it's going to waste your time, and you're probably going to burn people.
Yeah, I'd just say that. I just seen a question pop up from Jennifer saying if businesses without a clear plan can marketing really be that effective. It's a tough one, but I've always said that a plan nowadays, the world moves so fast. It moves so fast even before this, right? Nowadays, it's it is transforming massively, and it's at a rate of knots, right? That's the truth, right? Every day is different, right? Putting a plan in place, for the next week, never mind the next 6 months. Trust me, that plan will not look the same tomorrow, right? Your plan needs to be a living, breathing document, right? If you're going to sit there building a 6-month strategy or a 6-month plan, it's going to be too late. By the time you've finished and you actually get to executing that, you're over. It's done. What you need to be doing is doing marketing activities and doing enough of it and testing enough messaging and enough different styles and enough channels so that you can start to build a living, breathing strategy as you go. Nowadays, more than ever, it's strategy second. And learning and testing and understanding the audience and trying different things and getting creative and testing different tones of voice. That is more important than anything now. And that plan will start to build. I'm not saying don't build a plan, but don't sit there for the next the next 3 months trying to build a plan, because all your competitors have already moved, right? It's probably too late.
Yeah, and I echo that as well. I think as long as you know where you need to get to, so whether your business is suddenly giving you financial targets, or you're going to be launching new product at a certain point in time. I'm working on a strategy at the minute, and it's one page. It's one page, and then I'm going to figure out the detail as we go along, because as Dan says, you can spend weeks creating a strategy, and then it goes in the bin in 3 days' time because the world's changed again. So I do think it's a bit of a waste of time, and I think you do need to be super reactive and creative. But so long as you know what that end goal is, you can navigate your way there.
You know what I do instead? Sorry to cut across. What I would get them to do, rather than getting them to piss about with strategy, I'd get them to read Claude Hopkins' Scientific Advertising. It's one of the oldest books on advertising. It's cheap as chips. I think you can even download it as a PDF. If Rob's as old a creative director as he says he is, he probably remembers it as well. But I get them to read that. It's probably no more than 20 or 30 pages. I'd get them to read that, and then you can write a 1-page strategy, and you can do that in a couple of days, and you can be banging.
Thank you, Paul.
You can be out the door.
Brilliant.
That will
Just
convert them
sort of
into
thinking
the way of
time
thinking that you need to have them at.
Take a few questions, and whilst people
I agree.
think of the questions they want to ask,
massive strategy
if you guys have a look at the chat and see which ones you want to click out, I'll attempt to do a quick summary of what we've covered.
Yes. But spending the next 6 months doing a piece of strategy is not what you should be doing right now. Stop, think, form a plan,
so if you are experiencing downtime, it can be a fantastic opportunity to really think about where you are right now as a business.
Because
your questions are coming through. That's good. What does that life cycle look like, and where do you want to be? Analyze the why behind all of your ventures. See where you can perhaps maximize your technology. Might be things that you've already paid for perhaps, but never got quite around to streamlining them. So maybe it's your website, your CRM, your marketing automation, solving those niggles. We also covered the opportunity for marketeers to sort of get a seat at the table if they're not there already, help influence the strategy and direction of their business. As Paul mentioned, there's a lot less red tape, so marketeers can put their skills and knowledge of the customers to sort of help steer the ship. If you're unable to trade at the moment, look at what other needs you can fulfill. Maybe you can entertain, inform, or educate your audience. We argued that the hold your breath and wait for it to all go away approach might do you more damage in the long run, as your more agile competitors, people that won't spend 6 months doing a strategy, will adapt and potentially take your market share, or eat your lunch, as Paul wisely put it. But sort of going back to the title of the webinar, so what you should be spending your marketing budget on, we talked about focusing on the top of the funnel. Channels will differ from case to case in your particular business, but it's really pretty simple. So ensure you're fulfilling a real need, continuing to nurture those relationships with your audience. And I think that my key takeaway was Paul's statistic that he mentioned, that we've all had a blueprint already with the previous crisis, and that I think it was businesses that sort of invested in their brand grew 9 times faster. So I thought that was really strong. That was really interesting. So quite a few questions have come through now that I didn't get a chance to read yet. Has anyone sort of spotted any ones that they want to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen one there from Martin saying, do we have 2 more weeks to get new marketing ideas in front of senior management? Otherwise, marketing will have even less value. But I think, over the past 6 weeks, if marketing hasn't been proving its value so far, then you're pretty screwed. Because what I would expect to have seen over the past 6 weeks is action. Because whereas things were paused, a lot of our clients in our business, we went into overdrive. We were like, okay, we need to really quickly adapt to this and we need to do something. And there wasn't time to stop and think and do stuff. So I would hope that marketing has proven some value to this point. And also the fact that, as Paul said, marketing is leading this conversation. I mean, let's just see how well the businesses get on if that CMO walked away. They are reliant on us right now to help pave the way forward. And again, sticking loads of strategies in front of them. I think until you can, the proof's in the pudding, right? Until you can prove that what you're doing is working, then you'll get the buy-in. And I think that's an iterative process, step by step. So I hope we don't have 2 more weeks before marketing loses its value.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I agree with everything that you said there, Mel. What I would say, there's another question from Alison. Have I launched? I have launched a travel brand. How can I grow it right now? Any ideas? So we work with some of the biggest travel group in the world. We work with Expedia, and they are shitting a brick. But there's no better time to launch a travel brand than now. It's the landscape of the travel market. And this will be the same in a number of markets, but let's use that one because you've asked about it. The landscape of the travel industry will
any
be
other questions
drastically
that you would have picked
different
up on there
in
that
6
you'd like
months'
to
time than it
answer?
was 2 months ago. There'll be a hell of a lot less businesses. Businesses would have just folded. They obviously can't operate in these times. If you have something unique about your brand, then you can grow a brand from this moment. But it requires being creative. That's the only way that you can do it, because clearly nobody knows about your brand right now because you just launched it. There is no better time than to launch something now when other businesses are folding inside that industry. Take somebody else. So there's one from Sophie. What role do you see media owners playing at the moment? Can they help agencies or brands? Yeah, I think media agencies are playing a crucial role. So we've had there's some big opportunities in radio. I mean, radio's seen a massive explosion over the last 6 weeks. I mean, it was a highly effective method before that, and has been for a very, very long time. It's often overlooked because it's not cool. But
Question.
it's
Maybe
incredibly,
Alison,
and I would go a bit further than
travel
that, so not just
brand.
radio, but sort of,
how can I grow it right now? Any idea?
You know, so music on demand, so Spotify, etc. Podcasts. They can play a really big role. They can show the trends. Media agencies can show the trends of behaviour inside those media channels, and that can then be used as a way of convincing. Go back to one of the questions: convincing senior management. If you don't want to bypass them, it can be used as one of the methods to convince, to persuade senior management this is a good idea, with some of the data that a media agency can show you.
I think Paul answered that one, didn't he? He said we talked about the treble.
I'm glad it was such a memorable answer. Yes, okay. And there's another one there from Anne-Marie. Any advice for people moving into new roles at this time? I'm starting a new business at the beginning of May. Wondered what you guys would do in the first 30 days under these circumstances. I mean, my first answer there would be to understand your customer, or your potential customer if it's a brand new business. If you don't understand that, then you're what the hell are you going to say and do and whatever. But if you've got that, then you've got to be 180 degrees different to the competition in order to attract the attention of those. I think, like I say, I think launching a new business now is incredibly exciting. I mean, not wanting to put. So I mean, I launched Mellor and Smith 11 years ago. I launched it at the end of 2008, just when I, like 2 or 3 weeks after NatWest went bust or got bailed out by the government. It's a wonderful time to launch a company. I think it's one of the best times.
Right, brilliant. Thank you guys. We're a bit over time here, so I think we'll stop there with the questions.
You don't give an indication of what the business is, but I'd say don't try
I hope you all enjoyed your time with us
marketing and try and take over the world. Keep it really niche and keep it really
thank you so much for joining us.
So that you can really
this will be made available for those that
penetrate that market and do some deep diving marketing in there,
later on today.
And utilise the organic channels available to you.
So thanks so much,
find the right people,
yeah, have a great day.
and try and
See
take
you guys
a kind of that account-based marketing one-to-one soft approach into introducing your business, because without a big budget and you're trying to take over the world, then it's probably not the best idea.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.